If you're a coach, then you need a signature system. And in this video, I'm going to teach you exactly how to create one. Let's go. First, I'll talk about what a signature system is and why you need one. I'm going to talk about how it can help you make more money and drive more business, have more credibility, deliver better results, and ultimately how you can even use it as a cornerstone to build a scalable, more leveraged, and prosperous coaching business. And then finally, I'm going to walk you through an example of creating a signature system. A signature system is essentially a process by which you deliver coaching results. It allows you to create replicatable results, have standardization in what you do, and then ultimately even perhaps train other people to do your coaching and be as effective as you are, sometimes even better. The reason a signature system is valuable is because initially, at the very beginning especially, it can help you establish credibility. There's a big difference between being just a business coach or a life coach versus someone who's developed XYZ system or methodology. It gives you an air of credibility. It makes you recognizable. Ultimately, it can even become your brand. One of my clients, Leanne Webster, who I've talked a lot about, she was here on this channel recently. She was a consultant that helped people with their email marketing. Now she's moving into a different space, but back when she was doing email marketing consulting, she had this thing where it drove her crazy that people would spam people with emails. So she developed her email with heart signature system, where the HEART of heart stood for an important pillar of her methodology in email marketing. That email with heart system got her speaking engagements. It got her podcast opportunities. It was able to differentiate her from the mass of other marketing and email marketing coaches out there. If you think about it, all the big dogs in our industry, all the best coaches with the biggest, most leveraged and scaled businesses that are making the most money have some sort of signature system or signature methodology that they're using. Think about people like Gino Wickman, who wrote the book Traction, and he has his entrepreneur operating system. He's turned that into a certification program. He's turned it into software. He's turned it into training, workshops, seminars, group coaching programs, everything you can think of based on this one entrepreneur operating system. You can do that too. And it starts with identifying the methodology that you're already using to generate results with clients. All right, so let's figure out how this will go. And I'm going to use a fictitious example this time. I've done this before using my own model, my own signature system as an example, but this time I'm going to make one up, right? Because I've worked with a lot of coaches over the years. I feel like I can produce a pretty solid signature system. Let's pretend that we are a money coach. Oops, coach, spelling, sorry. Let's say that we're a money coach, right? And we're helping people handle their money better, the transformation that we want. And this is something I want to think of is like, you know, the initial point that people is basically they're struggling with money, or they spend it too much, or they lose it, or they can't earn it, or whatever. And then over here, where we want to get to is that they're prosperous, they're stable, they're secure, right? In all the aspects related to money. So let's start by just brain dumping on this mind map all the different ways that people need to get help to be able to have this transformation from struggling to prosperous, right? Well, obviously, one of the first things we're going to think of is their money mindset, right? The way that they feel about money, let's call it like feelings, let's call it their stories about money, so that it comes from their childhood perhaps. Maybe they've got money trauma. Maybe their family lost everything and had to leave everything behind, like my dad's family did in Cuba, right? So there's a mindset there, you know, from trauma. There might be legacy or even lineage patterns, right? They have, you know, their father and their father's father and their father's father's father all, you know, lost all their money or something like that. So there's that whole world of mindset. If you're liking this video, please take this moment and just click the like button and subscribe to my channel so that you'll get alerted when I drop new videos. Then there's the world of, let's say, earnings, right? You gotta make money somehow. You gotta bring money in. So how are they, are they selling? One thing we might want to look at actually as we're going through this, and I forgot to mention it, should have brought it up sooner, is really who is this person, right? Who are these clients? And I'm going to just imagine, because this is an audience I'm very familiar with, I'm going to call them all, let's say they're entrepreneurs, right? So before we design a signature system, you're probably pretty clear about who your ideal audience is. But if you're not, you definitely want to clarify that. So we'll call them solo entrepreneurs, right? These are people who are running their own business. Maybe they have one or two independent contractors. Maybe they have an employee, but it's a fairly small business. Let's just pretend. So how about they're selling, right? Are they marketing? Are they putting themselves out there for people to find them? So there's this whole world of earnings, which is obviously connected to mindset. Because if they've got a mindset issue, that might be showing up in their ability to earn. Over here, we might have a spending. We might want to look at, how are they investing their money? How are they spending it? Are they tracking it? This is another issue, tracking money, right? How are they managing it? How are they, let's put managing here. We may want to look at, in their tracking, do they have cash flow tracking? Right? Are they tracking their profit and loss as an entrepreneur, right? There may be a whole piece over here about debt. Do they have credit card debt? Do they have healthy debt, quote unquote, right? Or are they investing in their business, right? What does that look like? So these are all the areas that a money coach, or not all of them, these are some of the areas. I'm sure if you're a money coach, you have other ideas to fill in here. But this is some of what you're looking at. So you want to think about, is there an order of operations here? If somebody is struggling with money, what has to come first? And I'm not going to say that I know the answer to this. I'm going to just imagine, right, that in my system, it might be, well, the first thing we want to do is look at their spending, right? Because if they're spending too much, maybe that's a drain. Maybe they can just keep more of what they're earning. That might be the first thing to look at. And perhaps the second thing to look at might be, all right, this earnings piece, right? Oh, and maybe we're looking at, then we've got to create some like tracking and management, looking at that. Well, here's mindset. Wow, that kind of flows through everything, doesn't it? So maybe mindset actually comes before the spending, or maybe it flows through everything, or maybe it's its whole, maybe it's like the pre-work for your system. I don't know, right? But so what we're looking at, the debt, right? We want to look at the debt. Maybe the debt comes down here, and we look at that when we're looking at the tracking or the managing. All right, well, maybe how much debt do you have? How much cash flow do you have? How much cash in the bank? How many investments and all that stuff. So this is one example of creating a signature system and then putting it in time, right? And creating not only the steps, but also the tools that you're going to use. You might need a cash flow document, or you might need a spending tracking tool, or you might need a revenue tracker program, or some sort of CRM to track your inbound sales and what's in your pipeline, right? So you want to think about the steps and the order of operations, and also think about what are the tools that you need. So I hope this was helpful for you. As a coach, it's extremely valuable to create the signature system, because then you can take the system and replicate it and scale your business. And if you are looking at replicating and scaling your business, then consider my Superstar Business Breakthrough Program. I specialize in helping coaches, speakers, consultants build big back-end businesses. That means build a business that has monthly recurring revenues, that has stability, that has consistency, and that has scalability, while providing massive impact and contribution to the world. So if you're interested in learning about how I can help you with that personally, my team and I together, check out superstarbusinessbreakthrough.com and follow the steps on the page.